Welcome to Blue Ridge Veterans Project. I'm John Eberhardt, and with me is Mark Jarnutski. Mike, I hope I pronounced your Mark. Welcome. We're going to start your story where we start all stories, and that's where you were born.
Miami Beach, Florida.
And where did you go to school?
I went to St. Patrick's and St. Joseph's School.
Okay, and how did you come up to our neck of the woods?
Well, my father had left my mother and I, and we had no family down there, and my father's family thought we should come up here, that they could look out for us. And my mother made that decision, and we came up here in I got to school in Carteret November of 1960.
Okay, in the 60s.
Okay. Went to high school in Carteret.
Okay, after high school, you're approaching that time, and it looks like the country gets into a conflict called Vietnam. And Uncle Sam is calling and asking for help. And did you enlist or were you drafted?
Well, I had been a pretty good football player, and I had a scholarship, small scholarship, to a junior college in the western part of Virginia. And I went, and I decided I couldn't concentrate. I had been involved with a young girl, you know, whatever you might think it is, first love, or.
Oh yeah.
But I wound up coming home, and of course my family, my mother and father were quite unhappy with me, and rightfully so.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to stand around a street corner like some of the guys I know? So I said, no, I'll join the Army, and this way I'll do something with my life.
Okay.
But I hadn't told you this earlier, but I signed the contract with the Army to go to Germany.
Oh. Okay.
And I had 4 years of German in high school because I thought maybe I'd go to engineering or maybe architectural things and go to Europe possibly. So, but lo and behold, the Army changed my plans after I went through basic, advanced training. I got orders for Vietnam.
Okay, so the Army in its usual intelligence, you know German, you've had German for 4 years, decided not to send you to Germany. So they send you to Fort Dix for basic training. What was, I've never asked it, basic training, what was it basically like?
Oh, when I first got in the Army, I hated it. We all hated it.
I'm sure.
I mean, it was in February in 1966. It was cold. I wound up standing with a mattress roll on my shoulder in ankle-deep ice water, waiting to get into a barracks. But you got to stick with it. You know, it's like anything.
Sure.
And little by little, and I met I buddied up with a guy who was a terrific guy, and we kind of looked out for each other. He enlisted also.
Okay.
And I was an athlete anyway, so I did well in basic training with what we call Pro Park proficiency. You're running and sit-ups, push-ups, monkey, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
So it just got better and better, and I didn't know that I was going to Vietnam till after I finished my advanced individual training.
Okay, so basic is basically.
Basic combat training,
and then your next step is advanced.
Advanced individual training, whatever it might be. Mine was personnel.
Okay.
I figured I was going to college, so I'll get into personnel, and maybe something will open up. But you still have.
Now that's a rate I've heard of infantry. I've heard of artillery. I've never heard of personnel.
Well, they have the Army has. When I was in, has 150 MOSs, military occupational skills.
Right. So personnel was basically secretarial, or
learning how to run an orderly room, which is an important job. Company clerk was trained to do morning report, which is the most important document of every morning, 365 days a year in an outfit, whatever, battalion, brigade, any of it.
Yes,
they have morning reports.
Okay, and similar to the Navy's plan of the day. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
shows who's sick, who's not there, who's maybe unauthorized leave. Tells the first sergeant and the executive officer, commanding officer, what they need to know
This
about
is
their
what we
office
got
in one shot.
Right. Okay.
Right.
All right. So you did.
It's not easy. That report's not easy.
No, I can imagine. Yeah. So you're at AIT. You learn personnel.
Right.
That's your MSO.
Right.
And now you're going to go to another duty station.
I'm going to go to Vietnam.
Yeah. So you get your orders to go to Oakland.
Excuse me. Got my orders, and I had a month's leave. So I took that and I spent that with mainly my mother. I didn't see much of my father. And then I got ready, and her and a friend of mine took me to, I left JFK. It had just been named JFK. It used to be Idlewild.
Idlewild Airport, that's
This was 53 years ago.
Yeah.
And of course, my mother was she was staunch. My buddy told me that she didn't cry till I got out of sight, and then she just broke down.
God bless her. Yeah.
But she sent me off with, "I'll see you in a year, darling." And I said, "Yes, you will, Mom."
Good.
And I went off, and I flew to California, commercial.
To Oakland.
To Oakland. Yeah, I landed in San Francisco International Airport. Got over to Oakland Army Terminal. Went over the Oakland Bay Bridge. Never was over to Golden. Didn't get over that one, but over the Oakland Bay Bridge.
Okay.
And I run into my buddy, this guy that I hooked up with in basic.
Oh wow. Okay.
A guy named Mark Denny from New Hampshire, right over the Massachusetts, New Hampshire state line, and which is great.
Sure.
And,
yeah. See a friendly face.
Needless to say, we weren't supposed to go off base. But my buddy was he was very ingenious.
So you were restricted
He was like
to base.
the brains, and I was the brawn of the duo.
Okay.
And it was great. What we did was, if you give blood, they take you into San Francisco. Now you're going to Vietnam, we're going to give a quart of, but we did. We gave a quart of blood the first day we were there. And you get a slip. So my buddy comes up with the idea of masterfully changing the date every day.
Oh wow.
And moving in the formation. You have to stand formation in the morning. But thankfully we didn't have any more formations. So we went into San Francisco for 7 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's quite a town.
Yeah, it's a beautiful town. But you're restricted to base.
Yes. We said we weren't trying to be, we were good soldiers at that point, even when we were young, but we said, what are they going to do, send us to Vietnam?
Exactly, yeah.
That was not in a wise guy way, but just, what are they going to do?
That's the facts, exactly.
So anyway, he left the day before me, and I said, I'll see you, buddy. I'll see you someday. And he goes over, and then I go over the next day. I fly out of Travis Air Force Base. Now I fly over. Some guys went in those days by ship, which takes you 30 days.
Yeah, right. That's a month. Yeah.
And but I was live. But the flight was. We went from Travis to Wake Island to Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines, and then to Tan Son Nhut Air Base outside Saigon. Long flight. You're in a C-141 jet starlifter.
Oh.
There's 160 or 165 troops, but you're facing back.
Right.
You're facing towards the tail end of the plane, yes. And it does throw your body off.
Oh sure, yeah. Now while you were in San Francisco, you weren't supposed to be in town, so you had liberty. You'd go ashore. You go to USOs and the different.
No, we kind of bar hopped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were 19, both of us.
Sure.
I was born he was born on the 3rd of January, and I was born on the 4th.
Oh wow, okay.
So that our birthdays were like a day apart.
Okay.
We're the same age.
So we did some celebrating.
Yes, we did. And if we couldn't get in the place, we were cool. I mean, we looked like soldiers, that's for sure. We dressed nicely, but if we got in, we got in. If we didn't, we didn't. Okay. That was our motto.
Yeah.
And we had a good time. Good. We did some sightseeing too. I mean, it wasn't just bar hopping, but Fisherman's Wharf and Broadway, and it was something.
Nice, even though you were supposed to. So you had this 5-stopper. It's not a one-stopper plane to get into Vietnam.
Yeah.
And you landed where?
Tan Son Nhut Air Base, right outside of Saigon.
What was your impression when you first got there?
Oh, Saigon. It's weird. At one, I had started to read a little bit about where I was going. I didn't really know where Vietnam was, and I was in the college preparatory class in high school, but it was called French Indochina,
Right.
mainly at the time, because the communists kicked the French out of there in '54. Dien Bien Phu.
Right.
They call it China Gate. So it was hot and damp. And they're telling us on this, it was like a school bus, they're taking us over to the 90th Replacement Repo Depot in Long Binh. That's a little north of Saigon. Probably 20, 25 miles. But there's all kinds of stuff going on. You know, you got to watch out for sappers, suicide bombers.
Right.
The whole thing. We couldn't wait to, and we weren't armed.
Oh, you weren't.
We hadn't been. No, I didn't get a weapon until I got to the 1st Air Cavalry Division, my division that I was eventually assigned to. So we're watching, and we're nervous. All of us. Most of us in 1920. I think the oldest guy was 25.
He was the old man of the group.
Yeah. And he was new in the Army. So
Sure.
we went to the 90th Rep, and we waited there for a week.
Oh, wow. So you're trained in personnel, so you're ready to do your
Don't know where I'm
personnel
going in Nam. I don't know where. I have no idea.
Okay.
Now I get to Long Binh, and who do I run into? You know the answer, right?
Yeah.
My buddy, Mark.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's absolutely amazing to see him again.
So we're there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You really don't. You don't have much to do, but they give you. I pulled guard duty a couple nights.
Okay.
They gave me a Remington 12 gauge shotgun. Put me on the perimeter and gave me a few do's and don'ts. Main thing is stay awake.
Yeah.
Stay
exactly.
sharp, which you're scared anyway. This helps you stay awake.
Yeah, you're not going to fall asleep.
So during the day we drink a little Korean beer, Tiger beer, and believe it or not, they had slot machines.
Oh, really? On base, they had slot machines. Okay.
Yep. We were in some like Quonset huts,
Yeah.
portable housing. You know what it is, John.
Sure.
So we're there day 2, day 3, day. So we're getting a little antsy, and my buddy gets his orders, 1st Infantry Division. That was not too far away. Their base camp was down north of Saigon. I still didn't know where I was going, so I said, "All right, buddy, I hope I'll meet you. You know, we'll stay in touch."
Yeah, we'll hook up. Yeah.
So next day, I get orders for the 1st Air Cavalry Division. It was Air Mobile at the time, and I had heard of the division. I had my father was in World War II. He was a Master Sergeant in the Army Air Corps, so I had some feeling for the Army. And also, by the way, his 4 brothers were in the Navy, 2 in the Atlantic, 2 in the Pacific.
Good choice.
Which I come to understand you like.
Yes, good choice.
And they were good guys. So my uncles were good guys.
Yeah.
And so I go to the 1st Air Cavalry, Air Mobile at the time, but then changed to Air Cavalry. And I get assigned to the 1st Squadron 9th U.S. Cavalry, A Troop.
And this is after your personnel training.
Yes,
Okay.
they need a company clerk.
Okay.
But the guy there, a guy named Ford, I don't remember, but I remember his name. He was a character. I'm there but I'm not there to take his job. I'm there to replace him.
Right.
But he had and a company clerk has some power in an outfit.
Oh, sure.
Or some influence. So he kind of would give me a hard time. And I don't have much to do except I'm his gopher. Well, I get to know the 1st Sergeant. He's a tall, lanky guy from Tennessee. I can't remember his name, but I got along with him well. He's a straight guy, and I'm a straight guy. So I'm getting tired of, excuse me, what's going on. So I say to him, "Hey, Top, you could call the 1st Sergeant Top."
Right.
I said, I had gotten to know guys in the infantry, and they broke their backs. I mean, they were, and I just felt, I wasn't trying to be a hero or anything. I just felt like, I want to do something. And he looked at me and he said, "Mike, I can't I see I was an expert rifleman in basic training. My scores were very good on practically everything." So he said, "I can't do that. you're trained basic, but he said, I need a gunner on one of our gunships that flies support of the infantry, and they also go out on search and destroy missions, hunter-killer missions. So he said, I'll make you a gunner. I shouldn't do this. If you screw up, and this is what he said, your ass is mine forever.
You're training personnel, yeah, sure.
That's right. But I was, I was athletic and I was in good, very, very good shape.
And a marksman.
And an expert rifleman, so everything went fine. Unfortunately, my first mission, December 19th, 1966, was a rough one. It was an ambush we set up. But the intelligence said about 800-900 coming through this open-ended valley, which was called Pony Valley, for our intelligence purposes.
Right.
And probably twice that number came through.
Oh, wow.
They broke through the ambush. It was a long, 24 hours probably that this ran. I went back several times after reloading, and I saw a buddy he was African American. Been in the Army like 17, 18 years. He was a swell guy. Kind of took me under his wing.
Okay.
And showed me the ropes. There's ins and outs like anything, especially in the Army.
Oh yeah, the experience is worth it.
And it was great that this guy cared about me. Well, I got along with the guys, except for a few.
Yeah.
And I saw him get killed. And then, after I got done flying, I had the unfortunate duty, you have to have someone or a couple guys go to what they call graves registration. I had to identify guys in my outfit from all the dead. There was several hundred dead GIs.
Oh.
Part of the deal.
Yeah.
Good parts of the deal and bad parts.
Right.
It's my job. Well, I remember when they brought him in, and they threw him up in this tent. They threw him up on a makeshift table of ammo boxes, and he had 6 holes in his head, which, that's when I found out the brains aren't gray, they're cream-colored, because they were streaming down his face. And one ID. Then, that day, I had to go back the next day. They have the men in body bags.
Right.
And you go down the line, and that's my guy.
This is so and so.
And then you pass by, and that's when I went to hear loud zippers. It bothers me to this day.
Sure.
Because all you hear is that zip, that finality.
Yeah, the closure.
Of another young American GI. So that was probably the worst day. Well, probably there was another terrible day when they had brought in a second lieutenant after a battle, and they would strip our guys if they could. They were scavengers because they didn't have a lot of stuff.
They'd take their boots, their shirts.
If they could, they'd take everything. But they couldn't. We got him back. They couldn't get his boots off, his jungle boots.
Okay.
But what they had done was, I don't even know if I can describe it here. They had mutilated him. And I was standing there with three or four other men from the outfit, and not one of us said a word, but the look from each man was, I don't know if you can imagine, it was...
you all knew you were thinking, sure. You went on other missions.
Went out on hunter-killer. When you go out looking you're given an area where the enemy is located. You're going out there with gunships, 4, 5, 6 gunships. Some with 2.75. You've seen the rocket pods,
right?
They're long. They're 2.75 millimeter anti-personnel. They do quite a job. There's 18 of them, if I remember, in a pod.
Okay.
The co-pilot fired those. Also had some of the gunships had flex guns, we call them. They were more or less the barrels of M60 machine guns fed by these metal, like you'd see on a B-17 bomber, where the gunners, they
right.
fed into he fired those. Myself, the crew chief who takes care of the mechanics, he handles the other gun. We have M60 machine guns. So we would go out, and we did develop the technique. As far as I know, When you fly in a helicopter, a chopper, the higher you are, that you can hear you.
Right.
You can hear you coming in. So when we designated where the enemy was, we would come in treetop level. It's very dangerous, 80, 90 knots. Pilot hit the
It's
brakes.
100 miles an hour.
Roughly, yeah. And one mistake,
Sure.
but it deadens the sound of the chopper blades.
Now they would be shooting at you, obviously. They would return fire.
Well, sometimes we receive fire on a, but no, we were kind of sneaking up on them. Intelligence. We have guys out there, Rangers. We're called LRPs, Long Range Recon Patrol, but they were actually Rangers.
Right.
From the 75th Ranger Regiment. Great soldiers. I took them out also on missions and picked them up.
Okay. Sure.
But when we would get to where we had to go, it was like, I remember one time we pulled up on a group of NVA, North Vietnamese regulars, and their jaws actually dropped. It's like, it's hard to believe, but we're looking at them, they're looking at us, but we fired first.
Right, sure.
And we no casualties. I'm very fortunate, because when I flew, nobody ever was killed or wounded. I was never wounded, not dead, thankfully.
Yeah.
Very close many times, but for some reason I was skilled at what I did, but very lucky, very fortunate by the grace of God. I believe it was God. Didn't believe it much then, but as I got older, I realized. So but you do your job.
Now if they're firing, they're going to fire at the main body of the helicopter?
Well, I was there in 66, 67. Their technique got better.
Okay.
They would try, you see the helicopter there with the main rotor blade, they would try to shoot at that. But it doesn't do much except make it sound like a whoosh, louder whoosh.
They're thinking that would take it
right,
down.
because it's big, it's amazing.
Right.
If they would have hit us in the tail rotor, the chopper just, it has no control. You lose control of that little tail rotor. So, but
Spun out of control, right?
Right. Another good fortune.
Yeah, they didn't learn that.
They got better.
Yeah.
They got better and better equipped and harder to deal with. But we did a lot of damage over there. That's what we were there for. I believed in it at the time, and I still do. We may not have won the war. Well, you can say whatever you want, but the men that I was there with and the men that came after, we did our jobs. We were there to defeat communism. Probably shouldn't have been there, but that's not. We don't. That's not for us. That's not my decision.
Right.
And I felt this way all my life. I'm there to do my job. Unless I'm given an unlawful order to murder somebody, that's a different story. I never had that, thankfully.
Right.
But I did my job as well as I could, like the other men.
Sure.
And thankful to.
Your base, was there a village nearby?
Yes, a village is called On Key or On Key.
Okay.
We happen to have a big mountain in the middle of our the 1st Air Cavalry's division headquarters, and we called it Hong Kong Mountain. I don't know why,
okay.
But
it
was something. It was good visual view of for a long way, because we had a perimeter set up. And I pulled duty on that when I was in base camp. I was out in the field most of my outfit was out in the field most of the time on landing zones and infantry operations. But I would be back at base camp at times, and then I sat on the perimeter pulling guard duty. And we also had international troops. I worked with Australian troops, Republic of Korea, ROC troops, very good troops. They had a quad 50, and they were kind of next to us. Because we're down there, right? There's wire in front of us, barbed wire.
Right.
We have, mines and stuff set up. Well, they had a quad 50 caliber, which is a devastating weapon. We had our rifles, machine guns, and what we call a grenade launcher, a chunker, which would fire a single 40-millimeter round. We would sit there and go like this and plunk them at different elevations, call it harassment and interdiction. If they're out there trying to zone in where they can get through the wire, we're gonna.
You're making their life miserable.
Yeah, but that's right. But the Republic of Korea troops they hated the communists. because of North Korea, I imagine.
Sure, yeah.
And we didn't talk with them much because there was a language barrier, but these guys, they would go out, we would open the wire and they would go out on patrols. And they come back. And needless to say, they brought back remnants of
souvenirs
of enemy troops that they ran into. And the North Vietnamese and the what they call Charlie, the guerrilla, the black pajama people,
right.
they were terrified of these soldiers.
Wow.
Because they were stealthy, they were disciplined, and devastating
and brutal. Very.
Yeah, we were very glad to have them next
on their
to us.
side. Yeah.
On our side, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, amazing.
But like I say, I'm sure part of that was their hate for communism.
Yeah, that's. Now, when you went into village, did you interact with the locals? Were the locals?
I didn't really know because I flew a lot.
Okay.
That was the infantry on the ground. Mop up, whatever, take prisoners if possible, bring them back, interrogate. I wasn't in interrogation, but the intelligence interrogates
right.
them. Sometimes we try to make them talk. And
exactly. Now, if you're not on a mission, describe an average day.
Well, you keep busy. You have things to do. You take care of your gear. You may have a duty to perform. Things
watch.
to clean up. You have guard duty. It's got to be. It's tough air. It's a tough land. You have to be prepared at all times. And there's human waste that you have to dispose of, right. And that's not a very nice detail, but it's got to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
We burn it with diesel fuel.
Now I'm gonna, as a Navy guy, I have to bring this up.
Sure.
How was the chow?
It was mediocre, but your coffee was made in field ovens, and they would take a 10-gallon pot, throw the grinds in, cook it, and skim the grinds off.
Yes, and you got them in your cup, though.
But in the morning, it was hot, it was wet.
Yeah.
It actually kept your system clean. It was a diuretic.
I'm sure, yeah.
That and a cigarette in those days was enjoyable in the morning.
So how long were you in Vietnam?
11 months and 28 days.
11 months and 28 days, not just short of the full year.
Yeah, just a full year. That was and I came back. I was shipped to Cam Ranh Bay. I was in An Kee, which is let me put it this, about 280 clicks or kilometers north of Saigon. I guess that's 280 kilometers. It's in between Pleiku on the border of Cambodia and South Vietnam, and Quy Nhon on the coast. Quy Nhon was a port city. Then south of that you have Cam Ranh Bay, which was a big port. The Navy made a port there. Yeah. There was Air Force personnel there. Then there's Nha Trang south of that.
That was the supply depot, Cam Ranh Bay.
Yeah, and it got big. I mean, so I was when I got time to what we call rotate, I left the outfit. One thing about when I was there, I lost 4 troop commanders, 3 majors and a lieutenant colonel. 1 killed and the other 3 shot up badly because they would, on any missions, infantry, gun, they would fly up above the command ship and see what was going on. But then these guys went down into the battle. So they really, I guess I found out they weren't really, but they wanted to be with their men.
Oh, God bless them.
And 1 killed, Major Mendenhall, and 3 other shot up badly. But I rotated to Cam Ranh Bay. I left the outfit and I went to Cam Ranh Bay, and with a whole bunch of guys. Now the cavalry guys, before we left the unit, we all bought these Oregon Black Beaver regulation Stetson cavalry hats with the braid, just like in the movies.
Oh, sure, yeah, you're looking sharp.
Maybe I should have. I still have it. It's a keepsake. I wear it on special occasions for the American Legion. And like I say,
I don't think I've ever seen you. I'd love to see that.
I'll show it to you.
Next meeting.
Yeah, I'll bring it. I'll wear it. And it was $25, believe it or not. I think that hat would be $200-300 now to purchase it. It's in marvelous shape. And I take good care of it. It's black Oregon beaver, regulation Stetson Calvary hat. So they said, when you get to the States, they were going to give us a complete Class A uniform with a tie. Back in those days, it was a green uniform, light colored shirt, and a black tie. Right. And with your decorations, and with your 2 overseas bars, and then you'll head home if you want to wear the hat. But if the MPs, in those days there were MPs at every airport, and I came back to Fort Lewis, Washington. One thing I have to say, when we were leaving Cameron Bay, and it was a commercial World Overseas Airways, so it was an off-the-wall.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going home.
Yes, you don't care.
No, and the stewardesses were very matronly, but we could care less.
Yeah.
They had stewardesses, civilians,
really?
yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure maybe they got extra pay. I hope they did. But anyway, we take off, and we're all sitting there because they got enemy around us. They love to shoot a plane down or anything down. They had they got rockets, but we made it.
Yeah,
all
get
cheered,
us out of here. Yeah.
Hit Tokyo, refuel or whatever, and then the northern route into Fort Lewis, Washington, near Seattle-Tacoma, SeaTac International Airport. So I spend less than 24 hours, got my uniform, steak and eggs.
Oh, wow.
But when I hit the airstrip in Fort Lewis, I was not the only one. I got down on my hands and knees on the tarmac and kissed the ground.
Yeah, back home, finally, yeah.
Yeah, back in the world, as we call it. And got the uniform, whatever decoration, and I go to Seattle-Tacoma. I'm only 20 years old now. I went overseas when I was 19. I'm 20. I'm not even 21. But I'm having a drink in the bar because I acted like a gentleman, and
right.
I looked older than I was. And so I have a few drinks, and the young lady wanted me to stay there with her. But I said, no, I want to go home and see my family.
Right.
So I got on a plane, and I had to stop in Chicago and then Newark, the old Newark airport, the North Terminal, which is long gone.
Yeah.
A ramp to come off.
Yeah, you're outdoors.
Yes. So I'm on my way to Chicago. I wasn't treated very well by some of the stewardesses.
Again, this was a regular commercial airline.
Yes. I think it was United.
Okay.
I don't want to disparage United, but I believe it was United.
But you were treated lousy.
I'm pretty sure it was United.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get to Chicago. We got a layover. Now I'm with some other Calvary guys, and we got our soft overseas cap, but we got our Stetsons.
Sure.
With our cross sabers, so we're wearing them. And of course, we had the protesters, but we were asked, begged, don't
interact with them, right?
Right. I said, as long as, and they were spitting at us, but as long as that spit doesn't hit me,
you're okay.
I'm going to stay away from them, because if somebody spits on me, I don't care who it is or where it is, I'm going to fight. But anyway, these MPs come over, and we don't want any trouble.
No.
We said, okay, we'll take. And the one MP says, no, you keep those Calvary hats on. You guys look great. And we said, yeah, man, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
There was other soldiers breaking regulation, and a small regulation, but we were basically out of uniform.
Sure you were. Yeah. That's.
But we were very proud to wear the hat.
Had a sharp hat too.
Yeah. It looked sharp, and it felt sharp.
Yeah.
It felt distinctive. And then I got to Newark, and I was the last. Unfortunately, I was the last one off the plane. My mother and father, they were on the ground waiting for me. And my mother, she's starting to.
Here goes another one.
She's not a terribly emotional person, but she's starting to get upset. Where's my son?
Yeah.
I say, here I am. Came home, had a party.
Welcome home.
They had a party for me, yeah.
And then you went ahead. You got yourself got employed, got a job.
Yes, I've worked different jobs, and thankfully I joined the American Legion right down the street from here, post 87, and it was about 17, 18 years ago. But I was younger. I'm 72 now, but I was 17 years younger, 18 years younger. And I wasn't quite, I was still working a full-time job. So I was a regular Legionnaire. They had a lot of younger people in there.
Yeah.
They had a little problem, but we got a guy, Dan Dunn, who straightened us. Terrific guy. Taught me a lot.
Dan Dunn is he's
aces.
He's state vice commander.
He's going to be, excuse me, he's going to be the state commander.
He will be state commander
in about a year and a half.
We interviewed Dan.
Done in 21.
Yeah.
He's only going to start, but his name is D-U-N-N.
Yeah.
And like I say, he's taught me a lot, and I am the commander of the post now, the post commander. And I don't have a lot of men Legionnaires, but they're good men. We have good young people.
You've got a strong
Dan
post.
cleaned that, the place was running rough. He cleaned that out and saved it.
Yeah.
And we're all very thankful to him, and he's been a mentor to me. He's only 55, but he knows a lot about he's been to, he goes to, he's an Air Force guy. I think you've interviewed, I've seen the interview. You did a great interview with him. And I'm proud to be there. It gives me, I'm there to help veterans and their families and the community and the state. We give to tunnels, to towers, the CODA for the children transplant. We're anxious to help them.
Mike, you're as commander, you've done an awful lot. You help with the veterans home with that entrance wall. If anybody drives in Menlo Park, you see a beautiful brick wall that your post was.
Well, that's what we're there for.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm hurting a little bit now, but that's okay. I go to the VA hospital. I'm very fortunate. They take very good care of me, and I encourage other veterans to go. If you have a problem, tell somebody about it. But to me, they've been excellent. But I get to get up every morning. I got purpose in life, and a great purpose. The veterans I do meet, fellow veterans, Legionnaires. We have a great commonality, a bond that it keeps me going.
So how was your transition from the military, what went on in Vietnam, back to
I probably should have stayed in the Army, and I liked the Army. Shortly after, I say, the beginning of basic, we all hate it.
Yeah.
But I got to I got to respect the Army. It did a lot for me. Gave me discipline, gave me goals. I learned how to take orders, give orders, take care of myself, be a guy, a clean man, a decent man. I mean, you know, soldiers get a little rowdy, but most of them, they're regular people, like
they're good
like
people.
we are now. But you have that bond that lasts forever.
Exactly.
When you meet another veteran, like you're in the Navy, I'm in the Army, but it's been a pleasure knowing you. I've seen you do these interviews, and I meet with you for Veterans Alliance, and you do a lot. You take charge of a lot of things, so we work together.
Now, there is a bond between us.
Yeah, there is, and I like most, not all, but I like practically all the guys. Yeah, just like anywhere in the Army. I got along or liked most of the guys, but not all of them. There was some. But you tend in the Army to or in the Navy, I guess in any service, you straighten guys out that want to wreck the platoon or the outfit.
They eventually follow the way it's supposed to go. Exactly.
They see the error of their ways.
Mike, I've enjoyed talking with you. This has been absolutely great.
I have too,
We'll see you
John.
at the next meeting. Don't forget you're going to help our young Marines.
Absolutely. You're going to encamp we have a big backyard. Pleasure to have you and them here. Look forward to seeing those young people going into the service, which I advocate, by the way.
Absolutely. We'll see you, Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you again on the Veterans Project.